A man in Taiwan, he stopped a knife attack, and when he was asked why he'd bothered to risk his life, his answer was incredibly surprising. He simply said, "It's what the hero Himmel would have done." And in that single sentence, he lit up the anime community all across the world, because it perfectly captured something that so many of us often feel, but we rarely put into words. A fictional hero had inspired real-life courage. Now think about that for a moment. We've all watched heroes on screen. We've seen them fight, sacrifice, and stand up for what's right. But how often do those moments actually change us as a person? Well, today's video is exactly about that. The power of stories, the meaning of heroism, and the quiet lessons of a man who's honestly barely on screen, but he somehow manages to change everything. Because Frieren Beyond Journey's End, it isn't really a story about magic or monsters. It's a story about memory, about how we choose to live, about the traces that we leave behind. So today we're asking one question: what would Himmel do? And I think by the end of this video, we'll understand this question. It isn't really about Himmel. Instead, it's about us. It's about how we live, what we stand up for, and who we choose to be, even when no one's watching. So why does a hero who barely appears even in his own story leave such a lasting mark, even in the real world? And what makes Himmel's kindness far more powerful than any sword? And also, what can we learn from him right now in our world? Now, as I'd already mentioned, we've all watched heroes on screen. We've seen them fight and sacrifice, as well as stand up for what's right. But how often do these moments actually change us in real life? Our title asks, what would Himmel do? And to prove that this question, it isn't just about a fictional story, we don't need to look at the past. We can look at what's happening right now in our own world. Because Himmel's story, it didn't just stay in fiction. Instead, it jumped directly into the real world. In May of 2024, on a subway train in Taichung, Taiwan, a dangerous incident occurred. A man with a knife, he began threatening passengers. Now, most people would understandably freeze or seek cover or look away and try and run away, but not everyone. A fitness coach and powerlifter named Mr. Shu, the local media dubbed the long-haired bro, he didn't hesitate at all. Despite the severe danger, he stepped in, he tackled the attacker, and he held them down, struggling to disarm him. He ended up sustaining facial wounds in the process. But his courageous actions, and aided by several other quick-thinking civilians, he prevented a tragedy. They had stopped the attack. When later asked why he had risked his life, his answer wasn't about adrenaline or his sense of duty. Instead, his answer was a single sentence that lit up anime communities across the world. It's what the hero Himmel would have done. In that moment, it instantly went viral. A man had risked his life because an anime character showed him what real courage had truly looked like. That's the power of empathy. Mr. Shu's quote, referencing the hero from Frieren Beyond Journey's End, has become a meme among fans. It's a shorthand for the noble thing to do. He even said that the phrase, it reminds him to do the right thing, and he's adopted it as part of his life's philosophy. The bravery he showed, it was massive, but what he said afterward was just as important. Even if I had to do it again, I'd make the same choice. And he ended up delaying his training for a powerlifting competition due to his injuries. Yet standing to be honored by the city's mayor, he wore a Japanese jacket to proudly represent the otaku community, stating, "Otaku are not as bad as everyone thinks." And that's when you realize fiction, it isn't just about escapism, it's also emotional training. Just as our ancient ancestors sat around campfires and told stories about heroes to inspire and encourage future generations on how to act, well, these tales, they still inspire action in people today. That man in Taiwan, he didn't stop to think, he just acted, because he already knew what Hero Himmel would have done in that situation. And that's the power of stories. They shape instincts, they give us moral reflexes. Himmel proves that inspiration, it doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be real enough to make you act when things matter most. And so that begs the question, why does this particular hero, Himmel, leave such a profound mark on people? So much so that his philosophy can manifest in characters decades after his fictional passing in anime, but even more importantly than that, in genuine life-risking bravery in our own world. Why does a hero who barely appears in his own story leave such a lasting mark? Well, that's what I'm going to explore here. Himmel's gone before Frieren really even begins. When the story opens, after episode 1, he's already just a memory. immortalized in statues, stories, and quiet reverence. But his absence, it defines everything that follows in the story. Frieren, Fern, the people they meet along the way, everyone lives in the shadow of what Himmel represented. He was the hero who had defeated the Demon King, but more importantly, he was the hero who had stopped to talk to villagers, who helped rebuild after battles, who never treated anyone as beneath him. Himmel's legacy, it wasn't built on conquest, it was built on connection. And that's why people remember him, not for how many monsters he'd killed, but for how he made them feel. In Frieren, you see people tear up just mentioning his name, not because of nostalgia, but because of gratitude. Himmel, he had changed lives by noticing them, by being the kind of person that other people could believe in. Why does a dead hero feel more alive than most living ones? What did Himmel understand about heroism that most heroes and most of us don't? Maybe it's not about how you save the world, but why. And that's why this section matters, because Himmel's why, it wasn't glory, it was goodness. He wasn't chasing fame or divine recognition, he was building a world that didn't need saving anymore. And maybe that's the quiet tragedy of Frieren. He succeeded. He defeated the Demon King, and then he faded into legend. But legends, they matter. They remind us of who we're supposed to be. Now, to truly understand Himmel's impact, we need to contrast him with the heroes we usually see in anime. Most protagonists are driven by clear external motivations: revenge, ambition, pursuing destiny. They want to grow stronger, to overcome, and to win. But Himmel, he's different. He doesn't really strive to become something. He simply is. He doesn't care about surpassing others. He cares about uplifting them. He's not loud. He's not brooding. He's steady, reliable. He's the kind of person who makes everybody around him feel a little bit better. So why do we often overlook kindness as a form of strength? Maybe it's because kindness, it doesn't make noise. It doesn't have power-ups or battle cries. Himmel's strength, it lies in empathy. And empathy, it rarely gets credit until it's after it's gone. He doesn't view helping others as heroic. It's just what you're supposed to do. And that's why Frieren, someone who measures time in centuries, could never quite understand him while he was alive. To her, his kindness, it often probably seemed impulsive, wasteful, or childish. But decades later, she realized he wasn't being naive, he was being human. Could it be that Himmel's quiet compassion actually makes him one of anime's strongest heroes? If Frieren is a story about memory, then Himmel, he's its story's heartbeat. In every act of kindness, he left behind another memory which becomes a core part of the emotional fabric of the show. Every single person he touched keeps the world gentle, decades after he's gone. And that's something that our far louder heroes, they rarely achieve. Sure, they win battles, but Himmel, he wins hearts. Now, Himmel's philosophy, honestly, it's deceptively simple. Just do the right thing, even when no one's watching. He doesn't fight because he hates evil, he fights because he loves people. And I think that's a crucial difference. In a world filled with demons and death, Himmel, he never loses his tenderness. He reminds everyone that being kind, it doesn't mean being weak. In fact, it takes real courage to care when the world keeps telling you not to. Himmel doesn't just fight demons, he fights indifference. He fights that voice that says, it's not my problem. He doesn't wait for permission to act, he acts because it's the right thing to do. And that's moral courage, the courage to do good without reward, the courage to stand alone without applause, even without anyone ever knowing what it is that you did. Himmel, he treats heroism like a habit, not an event. Being a hero isn't something you're born to be. It's something that you practice every single day until it becomes second nature. Perhaps being a hero isn't really about saving lives, but about seeing them. Himmel, he saw people. The farmers, the shopkeepers, the nameless travelers, and he treated each of them as if they mattered, because they do matter. And that's what's really beautiful. That mindset, it spreads. One act of compassion, it creates another. One person who's seen it, he learns of it and spreads it on to others. And that's Himmel's real magic. Empathy that multiplies. He reminds us that small kindness can often outlive entire kingdoms. And maybe that's why Frieren can't ever forget him. Because she's not just remembering a person, she's remembering a way of living. So what happens when that way of living becomes the foundation of everyone who comes after him? For Frieren, Himmel is far more than just a memory. He's a question that lingers in her mind. What kind of person was he really? She lived with him for 10 years, just a blink in her lifespan, but she never understood him until decades later. And I think that's the heartbreak of her story, realizing far too late how human connection, it gives life meaning. Himmel's memory, it transforms Frieren. Every choice that she makes, every moment of compassion that she shows to Fern and Stark, that's her slowly learning how to live like Himmel. She's learning to care in the present instead of reflecting on the past. Himmel, he ends up changing Frieren, and through her, he changes each of us. Is Frieren's journey actually just Himmel's final lesson? In a way, Frieren is trying to become the person that Himmel always believed that she could be. Himmel represents everything that Frieren missed: warmth, presence, and humanity. But his greatest gift to her is that she can still learn it. It's not too late. His example keeps teaching her long after he's gone. It's a perfect symbol of legacy. And that's why Frieren, it resonates so deeply. It's not about defeating evil. It's about remembering the good and continuing it forward. It's Himmel's spirit living on in others. And so now we return to the question posed at the very beginning. What would Himmel do? Well, he'd smile, he'd help, he'd take that one extra step, even when no one's watching. And that's the essence of Himmel's philosophy: quiet consistency. Not grand speeches, no expectations of reward. It's just a steady belief that doing good things, they're worth doing just because. What would your story look like if you lived like Himmel? Would someone remember you not for what you did, but for how you made them feel? Because that's Himmel's real legacy. His compassion, it became contagious. His kindness became culture. His example, it became timeless example for each of us. He reminds us that you don't have to save the world to be a hero. You just have to care enough to make your little corner of the world a little bit better. The people that you help, they might forget your name, but they'll remember that warmth that you showed them. And that's how heroes, that's how they live on forever. Not through statues, but through stories, and through the people who continue to act because of them. So the next time that you see somebody in need, or the next time you're hesitating to do the thing that you know is the right thing to do, ask yourself, what would the hero Himmel do? Because if a fictional hero can inspire real world courage, well, maybe he can inspire you too. I'm Slane Knightley, and this was the Himmel Principle. If this video resonated with you, share it, and not just for the algorithm, but because somebody else might need to hear it too. And please consider liking and subscribing if you like these kinds of anime deep dives, and thank you so much for watching all the way through.